with an early lead. They put a lot of pressure in, and it's not the first time they've done that to NiP either. Not too long ago, at another stage on the biggest screen, they almost took a map from them. A couple of rounds went away, and they couldn't quite lock it out. Is this run-it-back strategy? Is this them saying, we should have won the other day? We're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. We've learned a lesson. Prove it, Invictus.
We're going to learn more specifically once Invictus get themselves onto the defensive side, as that's where the struggles showed up. 5 attacking rounds picked up, 0 defensive rounds in the match yesterday. So we'll need to see massive improvements made upon that. The ban's already going out. No huge surprises so far here. Thatcher, again, has remained a mainstay in our ban pool for months, if not years now. And Habana as well has become a popular choice for this map. Now we move over to the defender bans. Again, this will be the choice from Invictus here, and NiP will get the second one.
Now, if you're unaware, it was a sort of double split. Every team has played each other once, every team will play each other again, but because of that, we find ourselves in the latter half of this day finally getting confirmation on who is going to be gracing us over the weekend on the playoff stage. So, keep a keen eye on this game and a keen eye in the top right corner as you'll see the first, second, third, and fourth spots dabble and dance around dangerously as we finally have our delicious lock-in of the meal prepared in this Viking wonderland of Sweden.
This is certainly one of the groups that's in much more closer contention as well compared to some of the other ones, which are starting to see some clear favorites, especially from the APAC region here. Once again, this has been a big tournament for them in terms of what they've been able to push towards. They will complete our ban phase with both Cade and Valkyrie getting knocked out on the defensive side. Cade, once again, has found quite a bit of prominence on this map due to, again, what we're used to seeing him used for, specifically inside of the basement, blocking off the access for those hatches, as well as, once again, the walls leading to server, and quite a few other spots on the map, such as the upstairs sites to block off the access to square as well. Can be quite annoying to deal with, and since, once again, Bandit's not really in the meta for the most part right now, it's a relatively safe ban to knock him out. And Valkyrie, once again, too universally useful with the outside cameras as well as the general usability of her as an operator.
I like how more and more players are playing with the camera. As we have a technical pause, we get the joy. Okay, Invictus and their magic tricks, amazing. Love to see it. Love the flirtation and the fun with the camera lens that we saw a little bit there, the cheeky wink that came through from NiP too, that dabbled into a little bit. The confidence is building. And this is an important game, as you said, it's a lock-off. NiP currently sit in first. Invictus find themselves on the bottom of the board. BDS taking a bit of a hit earlier on in the day is a blow, sure, but Sonics as well being able to pull some victory. As you said, it balances out a group that was otherwise kind of going the way that unfortunately some of their country folks, some of their compatriots have suffered, where LATAM shines bright at the top, and NA and APAC have otherwise been, unfortunately, not quite connecting in all the right places. But, bang, double down. I mean, I know that it's, can we see what happens on the other half, but it's also fair to say, was NiP a bit caught unaware on their opening game, and are we about to see them go hard against an attack they've learned a lesson from?
It's possible that could happen as well here. Either way, things will be starting out in the open area once again for NiP, which means we have a big emphasis on the top-down hold. It's going to be supported by quite a bit of utility, such as what we can see coming in here from Julio now as he sets up the mirror window to try and play over towards the additional pressure that will more than likely come in from the repelled angles to try and clear this out. Usually extends over towards here as well inside of the open area, where once again they can fend off the pressure coming from square side. We've seen this work time and time again. No reason why it wouldn't work here, and Invictus know how to work through it as well. So let's see what their process is going to be to try and break this down as they're out on the board here and starting to clear out some of the initial barricades so they can begin to work their way in. So we check out Lunar Metal. He's going to be one of the pivotal players doing that, obviously, on the buck here. But Skeleton Key making quick work of it. Here comes that pressure on the repels that we talked about, where we could potentially start to see some counterplay come in from NiP due to those mirror window setups.
Steady eyes and angles is the approach here on Bank, which has otherwise seen quite a huge amount of play. Gig, the coach that has to step in for the missing player, has done well so far, but, well, doesn't quite push you over the line, especially against reigning champions. A missed thrown on a drone is going to be a quick pick up there from Speakeasy to see if they can get the eyes and the idea on the janitor's closet to see if the clearing up of the problems that might otherwise be caused. Didn't quite get the catch the first time round, but they're well aware of that player behind the mirror window. It becomes the problem of how do we stop them going for these swings. It's a confidence game, and it's a confidence built behind the intel and the C4s that are waiting with bated breath underneath.
Gig's going to get Adrenal Surge into the building here just to make sure he's going to be able to work his way past anyone that might have been hiding out behind tellers there. Second one going to get popped fairly quickly as well to allow Speakeasy to just hop in through Skylight, taking a massive amount of control quite suddenly. Kamikaze may not actually be able to handle this, so he'll take the fallback route, head towards the site here. It's just too much too quickly, moving in from Invictus here. Lunar Metal, though, nearly losing his own life as he works over towards the connector. Really gets Nitro celled out there. A lot of damage taken, but still alive, still in the fight here, and still able to damage that top-down angles here. Hopefully force NiP out of position.
The Nitro Cell was really well played, but it was also a little bit of a Hail Mary because at that point, as you said, that was sudden by Invictus. They charged and screamed their way through towards the top to try and find that body inside Janitors. They didn't truly maybe potentially know. Well, you would assume, otherwise Gig just blindsided us past an open door that suffered, but it's Pino that finds the first against Speakeasy, gets that opening engagement, and the Thinkers use their boosts generally already, but still, if that's the drive they're building their pushes behind, now they've got to see if they can find something else to be that confidence filler. Jordan is only going to get filled with shrapnel as he crawls his way back towards the door. I believe that was Capcan though, so it should be a pickup.
Yep, it's going to bring him back up as it doesn't fully take him down. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of aggression reeling out for NiP at this point as well, due to more than likely what happened with the positioning upstairs inside of the janitor closet and the sudden fallback that had to occur from that position here. So as a result of that, NiP has taken a much more reserved stance up until this point in the round, where now there's 20 seconds left, and they haven't even pressured yet, so they've been able to rotate one of their players into the blue stair spot. That's going to draw the permanent attention of Lunar Metal probably for the remaining timer portion here, as Psycho now fends off the first player trying to work their way in. It's a chain of frags for the orange team, for NiP here, as it's all brought down to Gig, and Gig unfortunately just not really anything to do. Will sit here trying to look for an angle, but won't even find it, as NiP complete the opening round flawlessly in their favor.
Every single door was locked, and unfortunately with the worst sort of thing, guns and explosives, there was no route through. The only body that really found its way into the site was dead by the time they hit the hatch drop. It was an unfortunate moment, but there was only a moment. 20 seconds was all that was left for the push because of how they sort of found themselves driving towards a certain point, but stumbled. The C4 changed what the Buck wanted to do at an inconsequential moment that led to seconds wasted. The Capcan getting the drop down, those seconds added up, those little misnomers and moments made them, unfortunately, a little bit of a misnomer of a round. They couldn't contribute it. They couldn't convert it into something that was a good effect. Can they try and find a bit of the drive they had before? Well, they gotta, because otherwise NiP is going to be showing a lesson of what we've learned.
Also a great switch up from NiP. You could see Invictus was expecting something aggressive to come out from NiP from deeper in the site once they'd taken that sudden initial control by hopping in through Skylight and moving in very aggressively through a few other power positions on the map there. Unfortunately, never really followed that up with anything into the site because, like I was saying, it seemed like they were looking for peaks from NiP. They were hoping to get a couple challenges in order to get an opening pick or two that they would then utilize to get into the site, but that never came out. NiP just sat back, waited for the pressure to come their way, and Invictus never really brought the heat until those final 20 seconds, as you mentioned. So Invictus are going to need to speed things up here a little bit or continue to put the pressure in after they take the initial control if they want to have hope of claiming this next round. Thankfully, not as much vertical pressure to worry about here since we are going to go to the second floor site. It's a bit more directly played this time for Invictus.
I love the intel denial that's coming through from NiP. They're using the Mozzies and the mutants obviously to try and slow down the drones, but bringing the echoes and utilizing them as that flat gather. It's a couple of huge open spaces on this map. You can really set yourself up with a couple of stories of intel from just one well-placed drone. If one of those drones is taken out the pockets of your opponents, who you know can do these well-coordinated and quick, confident pushes, fantastic, amazing. It's something that APAC is really hot at right now, and it's anything that you can take out of a hot region and a hot team's play is something that you can help to build to your own destruction. There's a big open space, there's an echo drone that's trying to find a connection to a roof, but that's an active droning, and that's a dead player.
Speakeasy finding that first opening pick here as Julio tries to work his way out into a more open spot to maybe try and see if someone from Invictus was potentially vulnerable there and only going to be taken down, but not going to happen. Not going to be the only player that tries to lean in for a more aggressive fight here inside of the first minute or so of it. Pino realizes that that drone has spotted him out from the bottom hallway here on the first floor and will quickly give up that position. Hopping going to go on to Pino here as well, forcing him out of position yet again, but still nearly wall-bangable here as he finally falls back into the somewhat safer harbor of that elevator bay.
The worry is these elevators are perfect catch-alls for grenades, and it's been a long time since Mozzie's had a clean open. The C4 is a bit too close quarters before you find yourself blowing your own face off for a drop down, and that's not the route that he can take. Joe's going to do some destruction underneath to open up that big back line towards all of the half of the building itself, and it gives you a straight shot if they're aware. And that's the big blow right now. They're trying to find some awareness, and Pino is praying that they don't, because if they slip by a little bit too wide, you know he's going to strike on a sharp angle, creeping slowly and steadily to a fight that they think is more consequential above them. And there is Psycho finding one, but Pino just waits. He knows the longer he's here, the more of a danger he'll be. Lunar Metal doesn't quite have the awareness, but Pino, he's still confident. And if he strikes, it's just a matter of time now.
Mind Pino again, no fallback route from here. Finds the angle against Lunar Metal. He's not actually going to be the one to finish him off, though. Psycho helps out from a different area. He'll take him down. Instead, the Nitro chucked out to try and punish the Hop-In that would come over once again through the connector over here, but we're not going to see that implosion just happen yet. Joe, as well as one more member of Invictus here, Jordan, going to try to work their way in. There goes the Nitro. It's off base, but we'll still see an exchange. It's a quad kill from Psycho here now as Joe, with the only one remaining for Invictus. Joe, to be fair, putting in quite the effort here, but he's also running low on time, and he's also out of ammo for that primary weapon. On to just the sidearm now, trying to clutch this one out, but finally, it's beaten by Muzi as NiP claim their second.
It was an attempt, it was well put together. I liked that we saw more of a direct drive towards an idea. They didn't just throw themselves in Invictus, and they actually got a very sharp early entry because of it. They weighed up their options. They had a bit of a play, and then they said, right, we have some clarity, let's go for it. Before that opening round, Gig sort of blindly charging across open lobby, a dangerous space, and the lessons that you sort of piece together, if that's the dictum of this game, is NiP like retaking space. They're happy to move aggressively against you, and Bank is a map that can offer that. Sure, there's big dangerous spots, but there's so many angles because of it, and you have to be cautious of that in what is a meta where pretty much teams will enjoy opening from one corner to the other.
Alternatively, it also shows kind of just a big brain mentality that NiP is bringing to the table right now. They switched up the playstyle at the beginning of round one after showing a slight amount of aggression and overall allowing Invictus to take a large amount of the map control. Suddenly in round two, it's played totally differently. They're all over the map. They're all in the face of Invictus as soon as they try to enter the building, and Invictus suddenly struggling with every single facet of trying to get map control here. So that sudden change of pace, Invictus just wasn't really expecting it, and as we saw with at least the player inside of the elevator there, it caused a massive amount of strife for them trying to take site control. We are going to go more towards the tertiary sites here now for NiP, so it is going to get a little bit more difficult for them to hold on, but don't fear too much for the LATAM fans that are viewing us right now. They are going to begin unlocking sites after this round to replay that they've already claimed for themselves. So they'll go to Tellers this time, see if they can get the job done. Quite a bit of blockade potential coming in here through both the Capcan traps as well as the castle barricades that once again is going to try and slow down the play from Invictus.
It's been a rough opening road here for Invictus. It's been obviously a very different story to their game previously against NiP and some of the ones that they've had before. And that is always a woe, because one more round and they've already performed worse than they did in the previous way against their attacks, which are a strong part of not only their play, but the meta, the game itself at this moment in time. The more distance NiP can put together here on their defenses, the shorter the road might be on the turn of the half. A slow creep. Gig makes his way up the lobby towards the banana to see if he can be rewarded at the top. It's just audio that he drops, but the drone has the cover to make sure nobody swings in. Almost catches. Muzi slips away, but you can see the awareness in the split. He's right down the middle of a fight here, and suddenly you're expecting a little bit more support to come through, but NiP actually drop out, go for the escape.
Kamikaze as well, going to be moving away from that one. Gig, however, still able to catch a member of the NiP roster in the process of this fallback. Psycho, the Capcan, will end up going down. Utility, thankfully, still already deployed on the field at this point, so they are not going to lose the capability to use that quite obviously, but they are losing a very dangerous amount of map control very quickly once again. NiP, of course, has the experience back from round one about how to appropriately handle this, but Invictus already knocking at the gates of the site here, and NiP still has a few players in the basement trying to re-rotate into better positions. Now, those basement positions could become quite powerful, as you're seeing it's blocking off access points like blue and probably the main stairs as well here. The members of Invictus are going to have to probably keep permanent flank watch on while they execute onto the site and try to take out the two additional players from NiP that sit inside of there as well.
Now becomes the bit of the problem we saw from before, but Gig's going to have the answer to it, which is find the fight from these long angles I talked about. This is how teams love to hold in this current meta. It's really just cutting from the bottom of lobby to the bottom of open, and that's going to force Muzi to have to retake what is a dangerous mantle, a mantle they've opened themselves to allow and alleviate the pressure that they want to be able to put on, but also as they've just had demonstrated, receive. Jordan pops the wall with a lot more pace than they've otherwise been in just a moment if they can find a way through to it, but otherwise, there's still a huge rotation coming from NiP. They're working out what ground that they want to take and make a bastion of their last stand, and, well, Invictus is trying to work that out too. The reveal of them Lucy at the bottom square will give a faint idea, but it's still down to push, and we're finding ourselves with, yet again, only 20 seconds.
Julio is yet to reveal themselves as well, still sitting on the inside of this basement CCTV position. Those flashes getting chucked in, though, definitely reveal the fact that they're aware of this position to some extent. Plant going down already for Jordan here as well, and more than likely going to go off without a hitch. There we go. It's been confirmed for Invictus. Julio as well. His surprise is now gone as he's been revealed. The retake attempt is going horribly wrong as Jordan just has the complete cutoff with a push through the small office. And suddenly, it's just on Julio. He's got to take down every single member of Invictus. And they barely even been touched so far this round. They respond with a flawless one of their own. And finally, they get on the board here for the attack at an overall scoreline of 1-2.
Strong energy, strong round, and it was massively needed because NiP had started to show that they have learnt lessons and, well, they've got new things to teach. Invictus, a great drive from the stand-in coach player of Gig, who's making sure that he can keep that mantle of pressure and the confidence that's needed to go against the reigning SI champions that have already beaten you once. In this group stage, they took across the top, found a second from it as well. They sort of punished NiP, who are still flirting with the danger of bank. They were trying to find and reposition, and sometimes the plan A becoming a plan B and a plan C turns into just a mess of documents with red string tied all the way around that ends up choking you and dropping you down. That was a good lock-off. That was a good take. There's still the questions of time and what happens if they don't quite get the two bodies before the confidence comes through, and what happens on a site that they've already dropped before.
This already has been an improvement for NiP's overall eventual halftime scoreline as the last time these two teams played. It went 5-1 in the favor of Invictus. NiP already has a guaranteed 4-2 scoreline, and that's assuming they drop all three of these remaining rounds, which I would say is unlikely at this point given the way that they are playing. So already looking to try to improve that even more, as like we were talking about at the beginning of the last round. Now moving to the fourth, they'll begin to unlock the sites they've already played for themselves, which will start off here at open area. They're going to go for pretty much the same exact setup they did in the first round as well.
I guess I want to see a little bit more of that direct drive towards players. It was, to be fair, an idea that they had on the first round, but the caution was thrown to the wind, and that almost cost them Gig very early on. Here, it looks like they might be trying to take a more direct route. They're playing around with the Jackal. They're going to see if they can get a bit of a track down on the loose players who are opting for that bait and run strategy, leaving the carrot on the stick, and, well, they're going to try and find the end of it, utilizing the Jackal and Lunar Metal. There's also obviously still going to be the potential of the pressure. You have 3 C4s in pocket. They've shown that they're admiral at using them and have almost bagged a couple of kills across a couple of different rounds. Utilizing that utility, it's never easy to enter this spot, and it's going to be made tougher by that player, the Vigil at the top. Psycho is going to burn as much time as possible in Kanto.
Looks like Pino once again holding that same position both upstairs and downstairs here near the elevator banks. Gig is going to press in though. Here comes that direct pressure from Invictus yet again here, as it'll also be supported by a drone play. Has to lose it for now as that drone does need to check things out over here towards Tellers, and hopefully it was able to figure out the position of the player inside. I believe Pino currently playing from the Tellers spot. It could cause problems for Gig and maybe other members of this team. And oh no, there's no intel that Gig has been pushed this far forward here. Psycho walks right into him, and the Invictus roster is going to be gifted the opening kill of the round.
I mean, that was a fall into waiting open arms and a no, but you're knocked out of the park, you're taken out, and suddenly Pino's found himself entirely pretty much surrounded. More intel, more of a drop-off, and a pre-fire just saw the side of a face but couldn't quite get the lockout, and the longer that he's there, the more danger it comes from Pino potentially spraying through on the connector towards the staircase itself, or just that lack of support that comes from lobby. They have the pings, they have an idea. Speakeasy has the chance to pop a Zephyr, but the grenade is the more likely option. Thrown, bounce, drop, no. Pino slips past, angles towards the next door, and tries to fake a fight, but can't quite make the distance, and now Gig keeps this drive down a double twice in a row.
Gig with some perfect timing here to get those first 2 kills on the round, catching that second player unawares, and the first one just had no idea that his position was even that far forward regardless. Beautiful stuff from Invictus here, looking to clean up quickly on this round, but again, time is getting a bit low, but they've got the real estate to press into the site at this point, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for them to move in. More than likely just finishing off things, Joe, you can see on the drones at this point, trying to see where those last 3 players are positioned at, or at a minimum, finding a clean path for this team to execute through forward. The drone at the moment focusing on the main stairs there to make sure there's not going to be any flanked angles this team has to worry about. Once they commit to the inside, they want to worry about what's in front of them, not what could potentially be behind them. And Speakeasy looking like potentially going to lead the charge here as we go to those final 20 seconds, and more than likely the point where Invictus has to force their way in. Nitro out, as that utility is still available for the NiP roster as well, but it's thrown far too early, so it's going to be of no effectiveness. A 1-to-1 exchange to start it off. Muzi with the second, that's exactly what they need, as he gets a third as well. Julio gets the fourth, and Julio gets his own personal second, shutting down the round as NiP hold the line against the brute force push from Invictus.
Right place, right time, right person. If you're on NiP, the diffuser trying to make its way around territory they thought was locked from an opener that was working in their favor. One different swing, one different location, and two bodies maybe not stacked in the way that they were. It would have been a very different story, but a triple kill locked in from Muzi guaranteed the round. Julio getting the 2 in the final 3 seconds cemented it. NiP clutch it out and lock it off and push themselves into a better performance that they had in their last performance with Invictus, guaranteeing at least an even defense. But here, with a clutch like that, this game is heating up.
Absolutely the case, and NiP are looking to try and take dominant control. Remember, folks, for those who either did not catch or do not remember the results from the first time these two teams played, this is the half where Invictus was able to claim a 5-1 scoreline. Again, on this very same map as well. No longer going to be able to repeat that same success here, as NiP has come back to take over in a big way. So Invictus are going to have to hope they've made massive improvements to their defensive half, as they picked up 0 rounds on it the last time that it was played yesterday. Going up to the upstairs side again, where NiP also found success initially on this hold. A much closer affair, though, compared to the downstairs hold. So Invictus, in my opinion, is going to have much better odds of trying to win this one on the repeat. We'll be finding out what the opening strategy is going to be in just a moment here, as they're spawning up onto the field right now.
Gig, yet again being able to find his way to sliver in, I guess becomes the point of contention here is, are NiP going to see if they can find a response to a play that has otherwise been able to drive them into a bit of a deficit twice in a row, or are they going to sort of trust the process? Trust that what they've done and as a setup is something that they think will come through for them as it did before? Because to me, seeing that being a recent threat from Invictus means that they're heating up. They're trying to find more of a lead in on the pressure. They're going for the same points they did before, but throw our minds back. There was a player unchecked in elevator for a long time. There was the swing from the server stacks underneath as well. For a long time, they sort of found themselves in these power positions, and you're looking at Invictus now like, how do you drive against that?
We're going to see here for Invictus, Speakeasy will try to open up one of these repelled angles to play off of. Also will punish anyone from NiP that tries to more aggressively swing out from this main balcony here, as obviously Invictus can take a side position downstairs and punish that player falling back quite deep into that hallway before they're going to reach safe quarters. So NiP will be held back to a much more restrained degree. You can see Invictus once again grouping up for a big push through this lobby to take spiral staircase control as well, with the others more than likely working on back pressure through square or another avenue to push themselves into the site. You'll see the alternative pressure still being put up on the rappel as well. That'll be Jordan manning most of that. Joe will be taking the case this time and moving in with the team, currently working their way through into lobby.
Now, how do you find the first lead in? Is it going to be some bout of pace here? You know that they have a preference for playing underneath, and you know that they play it very well. And it seems like that's the caution being paid here. Ground and territory that they didn't fully check before and became a big problem later on is instantly cleared. Gig finds his first entry again. Will he get the customary second follow-up? Time will tell. And Luna Metal's going to make sure he makes it a bit easier. No. Psycho gets a response from a hop out. He's able to go for the loop, takes a route wrong way. He's going to go for a different split. There is a body that's not too far away, but they don't quite have the angle. Gig is cautious of a run out. Psycho is
just wants to waste time, it looks like.
Causing problems.
He's going to continue to hold that outside position, and once again try to see if he can throw off his opponents here, force them. I think for the most part, Invictus is going to be ignoring this position, though, as Gig has moved away from it. He's gone to the inside. He's found another entry for himself, but Muzi does trade it out this time, eliminating Gig and preventing any further threat to the team deeper in the site. What a shot from Speakeasy, though, lining it up against Pino to take him out, removing the defensive nature and now leaving only Muzi on the site. Psycho's adventures are now going to become a massive deficit for the squad, as he more than likely only just now is getting himself back in through the sewers. They'll know exactly where he's coming from as well, so it should be a pretty straightforward cutoff here for Invictus to close down the round now that they've gotten their diffuser down and have this in a very, very solid post plan.
It was an idea, Psycho. it was an idea, and you've got to make a hell of a clutch to be able to pull it into the realms of at least being an okay one, but no, it stays in the books as a bad idea. It was an even fight, and that's the thing about that intel. Sure, a lot of teams that aren't as laser focused might go, hey, we need to deal with this guy. It's maybe a freebie. At worst, it's a trade. But at that point, a team that has been so consistently convicted to go, I want this site, goes, there's less of them on the site than there is. We know where a player is. We don't have to work around that intel. Let's go for it now. He's just messing about. At worst, you know, he's going to go for a big rotate. We have 20 seconds. Let's take it. They did. NiP lost the round.
Unfortunate as well there for Psycho on the hop out, just because of the fact that, once again, he probably actually had a pretty safe path to work his way back in through electrical. He got a little bit scared because of the positioning from Gig, and for good reason. Gig had an absolute top-down angle, would have probably very easily killed him had he tried to go for it. But Gig didn't even really seem like he was fully committed to that, so there's a possibility where he might have been able to sneak back in, maybe hold off that site just a little bit better. But that's nitpicking at best, so I don't want to harp on that too much.
I mean, I think you can fairly nitpick it, because I think it was a stupid idea. I think it's one of those things where you could tell what he was trying to do, and if it came out to a round when it was be like, you see why he did that.
Yeah.
But now it's a loss.
Now he's left his teammate off on an island.
And now that's, sorry lads.
I won't do that one again.
Yeah, that's off the book. Scratch it off.
So NiP still in controlling shape going into the final round of the first half, but only by a single round here, as Invictus is looking to try and tie things up. It is going to be a different hold coming in from NiP on the final round, though, as they'll finally go towards the basement to surprise with one final site that they'll add into the rotation here, changing things up a little bit for Invictus. Invictus, of course, bringing plenty of hard breach. That's not going to be a problem, getting control over the hatches as well as those server walls. They'll bring an abundance to be able to handle that, as well as plenty of soft breach here, too, to make sure that they can deal with any utility or, of course, floorboards they would like to take out.
Across the top, they're looking for that single player that's moving his way around the drop on janitors. Psycho is once again out for a roam, this time well within the confines of the building. For now, we'll see if that changes and update you later on, as he seems to have the habit of updating elsewhere, but it seems like he's not going to lean into this fight too much. He's dropped a floor. He's hoping the intel that's otherwise being picked up by the rest of the team will be something he can lead into, potentially. But he's not going to risk it, and it's a fair play. You're looking at the basement of this site. Sure, it's one of the only map points that I would say had some actual change from the construction of the movement of the hatch towards the vault and the backside. You've got to pay attention, which Pino is doing, which you didn't have to used to. But it's still very structural. You know where your hard walls are. You know what they're generally probably going to do, and you know that you have the bastion of support that you don't get on the other freewheeling sites.
Invictus here already taking a lot of the control, specifically on the first floor, mainly because NiP is not looking to resist this too heavily. We saw earlier that we had Psycho out and about, but it looks like his position has also fallen back to the basement at this point. Oh, yeah, he is going to be holding here towards the elevator banks as he has moved away from it. Thank you very much, Observe, for checking in on that, as NiP now looks to take this to its final moments with the remaining minute and a half. Even a very aggressive hold there from Julio going into the garage as well to add that extra layer of security for the other players in sight, not having to worry about a potential late round addition to this push here. Jordan, in the meanwhile, working with Lunar, still very aware of that player inside of the blue stairs. They know Kamikaze has the solid hold here. He's going to use the Toxic Babes to try and fend off the initial pressure, but still backs up, respecting the frag grenade pressure that was potentially going to come out. Alternatively, we also have Muzi moving in here to make sure that if they do try to force the issue, there's plenty of gunpowder to fend off that longer range duel.
The smoke canister buys some time, and you kind of expect a third, but it's not going to follow it up. The trade of the grenade is the drop, but it's Muzi to pick up the pieces and go for one more. He's still hungry and wants to take a bite, but with the hatch popping open, he knows that otherwise that would be a death sentence. Has to hand over at least blue stairs, but is going to go back to his second line. 40 seconds, and they've wasted a lot of utility to break their way through. They don't have anything to dig him out without the intense pressure. They might be able to hit the ADS and drop the shield, but still, it's a dangerous fight with, more NiP players itching to get involved. 30 seconds, and you can see Invictus is going to start to diversify their push a little bit, come to the bottom of the stairs and take the swing. There's the shield I talked about. There's the first for Muzi, is double for the round, but he is still sitting here pretty. He's saying, hold back, I have this locked down, and Speakeasy is now going to have to try and pop the stun for Joe to follow up, but it's another one, and Muzi's just getting out of there. Goes for the run to find the Ninja Turtles in the sewers. He's gotten the rest to lock it off.
That duo play between Muzi and Kamikaze was absolutely beautiful, especially with how they handled the blue stairs situation. Kamikaze knows that, yeah, I'm probably going to get one here, but they're probably going to overwhelm me pretty quickly after that due to the repump time on the shotgun, and I'm going to need that support. Not only does Muzi offers it, but again, he keeps it towards the bottom of the staircase where he can have an advantage with that weapon, playing it towards the longer range, and then he knows the pressure is going to start to boil down towards the hatch, catches the Selma going on to the hatch, and then very quickly goes to the other power position he has behind the server banks to waste even more time. Absolutely wonderful stuff there coming out from NiP, and it completely stops all the momentum Invictus had made up until that point in the round. Solidifies a 4-2 lead now for NiP as the teams will switch sides, and we move NiP onto the attack.
Defenders, protect your
4-2. To say things haven't gone to plan is, well, just sort of obvious at this point. For how well Invictus were able to lead in on their attacks, it just shows that maybe NiP have woken up a little bit. They've seen the pressures that are coming, not only from this group where it's been a little bit hit and miss, they've seen BDS stumble, they've made sure that they might be able to cement themselves towards the top, and they're going to see if they can run this home the same way they did before, flawlessly on their attack half. Invictus now get to demonstrate what they've been able to take away from a very firm and tough lesson that they're surely still probably a bit uncomfortable from.
NiP sitting in a solid position here, only needs to control a quarter of the remaining game here, or half of this half, if you really want to be confused by my terminology.
I'm with you.
Yeah, 3 rounds, folks, is what NiP needs here, and they will take the cake for this matchup and continue to maintain that first place position. And unfortunately, that will also still leave Invictus down below at the bottom of this group and 4th here, which they will not accept at this midpoint of the group stage here. Teams need to fight for their lives at this point, and Invictus is unfortunately one of those teams that is currently risking elimination. So they need to bring everything to bear here on the defensive half if they want to try and bring themselves back into this tournament and still have a chance to make it out to the playoff stage. It's slow bearing for NiP as well, as they are going to be slowing things down here, focusing very much on the intel game and the initial control they want to gain for themselves before they move in. This will be included, of course, because we bring 0 to the table here. This is something we've seen quite often inside of North America as well, specifically for teams like Oxygen, who love the extra amount of intel that you can set up in advance with these cameras.
Well, the Sam Cams, as they were so dubbed, are working overtime. They're going to see if they can get the grip on the movements that Invictus are going to try and put down, but look at this. Instantly, NiP are seeing if they can creep around and get some sneaky control underneath. They are building themselves a web and trying to catch a loose Invictus player in it, but nobody is extending or offering themselves as of yet. The silence you can cut with a knife, but Psycho is more likely to try a grenade sooner rather than later. As soon as he gets a whiff of where somebody might be, you expect those holes are going to come back to be punished.
Kamikaze in a bit of a tight situation right now, but thankfully has support from another member of his team, I think, toward the actual upper square door. So he's going to be able to fend off that potential push that was going to come in from Speakeasy. He's stuck on the inside of Jay. Pino finally finds success here, catching Looter Metal and eliminating the Mira from play here for Invictus. Nade's starting to roll out as well from the side of Psycho as he tries to figure out the positions of these members of Invictus, but is not going to be able to so easily lock one down as the frag, unfortunately, doesn't lead to a whole lot. Still a little over a minute to go, though, so NiP are still in good pacing right now to get themselves closer and closer towards the site, because realistically, they only need to try and open up that one wall into square, and they'll have the execute angle, but they will have to worry about some of these other bunker positions, such as, once again, Speakeasy inside of Jay, and the extensions from Gig, as well as Jordan out towards Stocks and Elevator that could cause problems if they try to brute force the site.
Psycho is waiting for Speakeasy, but Speakeasy never came, so instead he's got to go around and realize you've got 40 seconds. Stack up for the trades and you'll definitely guarantee yourself this situation. But look, Gig on the far line with the Echo. You wonder if those drones might still cause a problem. He's hoping he can get a catch and a sliver on a swing in, with Julio causing and drawing some attention from the back line. They have an idea on where the players have set themselves up, but it's putting that pressure onto them to push them into an uncomfortable situation that becomes tough. Psycho has gifted one, but Speakeasy says, hang on a minute, I want to back myself. Over the top of the stairs, Julio heavily hammered, but finds a sliver down. They've still got to try and drive the cover for Kamikaze, who finds it himself. He's not going to be able to get into the site in time to stick F, and it locks it off just for surviving.
The setup just far, far too strong there from Invictus. Every single facet of their defense is covered. NiP wanted a free opener here, trying to take this incredibly slow approach, either getting it through utility, as we were seeing with the Yana nades from down below, or of course that slow creep up towards the janitor room. And they nearly find the kill there as well. One player is sat in the open looking the wrong direction, but they're still not able to find that kill. And we see the push come out from Jay to shut the push from NiP down as well. NiP failing to get an opener for themselves, failing to breach past a single facet of the defensive setup, are forced to work their way in those final seconds. And like we said, the cutoffs were just way too well established for Invictus at that point for NiP to do anything.
If we're in a position at the start of this game to sort of say NiP is performing better, so far statistically, Invictus' defense is performing better. In that they've won one, they haven't suffered an entire flawless sweep, and they might still be able to build a little bit more to it. Again, they had that backline. Okay, if one kill, the freebie that could have actually been taken and not missed out on, and the cover wasn't quite there with a shotgun, if that was a trade, it's suddenly a very different story, because Julio has less pressure when he makes his entrance. Instead, sure, he won his fight, but look at the health he then has to work with, and look at what he's still got to do, take another fight against Gig, the final player with the Echo drones and a 3-second execute. You saw him hop to them, but he didn't even need to because of the delays that had otherwise been. Precious 5 seconds, coulda, woulda, wasna.
I guess that works. But yeah, at the same time as well, that also would have taken additional presence away from Joe, who was covering the cross from inside towards Banana in the site. That would have left really just one person having Overwatch on the site. That's assuming that Lunar Metal actually survived the trade inside of Jay as well there. So it would have been a much clearer path forward for Kamikaze or whoever had the case there by the doorway in the final seconds of the round. It would have been a much more straightforward process for NiP. Beautiful hold from Invictus, though, as they take the cake on that one and reach themselves within one round's grasp of tying things up against NiP here. NiP, of course, are going to shift their perspective a little bit as they go down towards the open area for this next hold. But for NiP, or Invictus rather, go for the downstairs hold now. But for NiP, they're wasting no time with their opening clear here as they move in towards top square as well as the basement to start clearing things out. Quite a bit of Invictus resistance is going to be here, especially towards stock, however. So NiP certainly have some work to do before they can even think about transitioning down. Oh, I say that, but Psycho, oh, the trigger discipline is working out well for him here. He'll take a little bit of heat from Speakeasy, but still takes him down and catches a massive rotation moving down the steps as well, meaning his team is going to be fully secure with their upstairs positions. They should know there's not a whole lot to worry about down up there now.
The worst corner to turn is the one where a player has a gun stood pointed at the end of you. It was the perfect place to be. That bait and catch game, the anvil, but the anvil is waiting for the hammer and is very tiny and secretive, is such a danger in this current meta, and a consistency that we've seen played by a lot of the teams from the Latin American region. Here, it's able to take care of Speakeasy, who has been a big force for the team across the recent fights, but it allows NiP to have something they didn't have before, time after an opening kill.
Going to see here once again that time being used quite heavily for, especially again, our Buck player here, Pino, continuing to open up opportunities down below, seeing what exactly Invictus have built towards, specifically on their extension to the inside of Tellers. Not gonna find much though at this point in the round here. Joe was potentially able to be revealed here, but they haven't caught him just as of yet. He's just going to re-enable that jammer once again to make sure the drones that will more than likely be coming in at any moment here around this 1 minute mark are not going to be spotted. I say that, but NiP not focusing on that at this point in the round here. Not a single person trying to focalize that as they are still worried about making this transition and finding that first pick, and they will get it here inside of the site. Gate goes down. Joe as well nearly caught, and there we go. Finished off by Julio. Suddenly the defense is a shell of its former self. Jordan has just been spotted trying to push out, so they know he's probably playing the corner default or someone near the break room. Though it's be an easy task to lock him down, as you can see Psycho already positioned to watch out for that player. So all they have to do now is figure out Lunar Metal. Lunar Metal is not going to be too hard to decipher here either. The Nitro goes out. They'll know that'll have come from him, and they very quickly handle him. Jordan, they've already got the intel like I described before. So it's a flawless push from NiP as they inch that much closer towards match point.
The difference there, NiP had that early take, that early fight, and the boots in the ground in a position to punish the play that Invictus wanted to do. Sure, it came off of something where he was in the right position, and if they hadn't had the rotation, maybe it wouldn't have gone. It was trigger discipline at first. Maybe he wanted to go a bit further, an opportunity was there, and he was waiting with his more to bite. And they did, and that allowed them to then start to put much more pressure on the top. Suddenly they had something that they had an idea of, well, let's try and take this territory, let's not go so direct onto the site itself. We still have other work to do, which became a bit of a waiting problem in the round before. The pace picked up, and, well, that's always the worry with NiP. It's them playing at their worst is when they lose track of that time management. And to be honest, in terms of sharpening that, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but they're trying to make it look so.
All right, so for Invictus here, trying to bounce back once again with another site under their control. They've already managed to take one for themselves back over on the second floor, but things are going to look a little bit different here now as they go down towards the basement for their next encounter. They bring a lot of blockade capability, specifically for Speakeasy there, once again bringing the castle onto the folds here. Trying to slow down the play from NiP, but as we've been seeing, plenty of soft breach to be seen here and used. Unfortunately, not the right kind of these circumstances here, as Pino's still sticking on the buck, so it is going to be a little bit problematic to try and get rid of some of those castle barricades. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, though. Plenty of frags available here, so they'll be able to get rid of that without too much of a problem and work their way onto the site. Just means that that type of utility will be less available to actually kill players as they work their way into the round here.
So, stacked up and locked down here onto a site where, to be fair, we saw, as you said, a perfect demonstration of wasting and waiting around the time onto the stacks built around blue. It is so hefty. It requires a driver utility, and it's one of those few points in the game that remind me of that meta of we've got to burn ADS to hit a shield with a grenade. They're rare now, thankfully. It's not every single pixel, but it's the danger.
Julio's got this great drone positioned out here on the inside of Garage, knows exactly where Joe is moving towards here. Joe, though, still going to be a dangerous player to fight in this position because of how mobile he is being. Julio needs to get off of this drone, obviously, to be able to make that push. He decides this is a bit too risky of a fight, despite the intel he has from the drone, so we'll back away, go for the lobby office instead, and begin the clearing process from there, as I believe too many of his teammates were far too away to be able to move in and assist with that type of a push to go for an early kill there.
Risky 50-50, and they're not in the market for that NiP. They're much more happy to make sure that they have the close down. We know where he is. It's similar to when they knew that they were against what they knew what was, and Invictus punished it. A lot of words in a sentence, and to be fair, maybe it makes sense. Here, though, their eyes are set and forward and focused towards the drop on the stairs. The Gun 6 opens it up and gives them a bit of pressure and swing with a bit of pace. It's always a danger. The pop of the Gun 6 means usually it's followed by blood.
See here now as Muzi moves his own way forward. He's still trying to work their way past this blue stairs hold here. We already saw the strength that that hold can have for NiP back at the final round of the defense. Time to see if Invictus can repeat that strength, as they also have some extensions over here towards open area, which are currently being locked down. Speakeasy going to see if he can trade one out. Some great damage going on to Muzi, but not enough as he's cut off by, Pino instead there to take Speakeasy out of the fight. They'll leave Invictus with only 4. Just over a minute remaining, though, so still a good amount of time has been bled out, and NiP still has a lot to clear out before they even get close to this site.
That is a hyper-aggressive mirror window that I've just seen leading towards the bottom of the blue stairs, and that's really, I mean, it's pop, sure, but it's still a danger. If they pop up their way around on that side, suddenly you find yourself in a tight spot, and the way to break that is break the back line. The cans being opened over the top, and they're looking for the juicy deliciousness that is inside, and to see if they can pepper it with bullets and grenades as they start to put their eyes forward. 30 seconds, though, and this is NiP in that situation where that time management demon that I talked about before is starting to rear its ugly head. They're looking at restructuring their attack, their take. Their eyes are down towards green, but Gig is the man that they're about to meet, and that's going to be the call. You can see Joe is restructuring. You can see Julio is changing that decision as they drop towards it for 10 seconds, and they've got to try and hot-foot this diffuser closer. It's the second time this is starting to happen. It requires one piece of the puzzle to fall, and that was the diffuser that just needs to hit the ground. No! NiP found it at the last possible second.
Definitely a little risky there on the time for the push on NiP's end of the round, but thankfully used the buddy system inside of that push, so anyone that was lost on the way in was very swiftly traded out, as we also saw use for the push into the open area too here. Great stuff from NiP, continuing to control this attacking side as they now push up on map and match point, trying to once again solidify things with an additional 3 points that they would gain in the rankings to really lock in that first place for the day.
I mean, it's always the game of looking at outlines and working out where players were. I don't think Thermite would have been able to get to the site with the diffuser in hand. It looked like the positioning wasn't one. I think they weren't the one coming from Garage. They had just come down from the bottom of green. But we know that. With our omnipotence, we see all of that with our knowledge. And unfortunately, Invictus don't have that same gift. Then it would be cheating, and they would be banned from the tournament. NiP, though, they're able to capitalize on the fact that they're very good at putting the pressure into gunfights. it's still dangerous. It's still dying second throws and Hail Marys, and they don't always bring you the consistency to lock out rounds and games.
To be fair to Invictus in that situation, though, I think it's fair to say that they're going to assume that NiP has the time management capability where they would have gotten onto the site there before we hit zero timer. So NiP just a little bit lucky that Invictus didn't take the gamble on that more than anything there. Is obviously, had the last player alive not had tried the challenge from the vault position there, it surely would have been a lost round, as a retake would have been nigh impossible once that case had gone down to the ground. Let's see for NiP, though, if they can continue on the warpath, or if Invictus has the winning strategy once again upstairs to try and at least come back slightly. Still need to find 2 additional sites beside that one, though, and that's assuming this one is a success. NiP, of course, has probably learned a few lessons from the first play here, and looking to repeat it much more successfully in their own regard, specifically with how they look for a way into this site. They had no problem clearing out the surrounding area, but the overall setup for Invictus was far too difficult to breach last time.
Opening up these stretch angles across 2 stories of verticality to see if they can put some pressure in, and Julio does the Sam Cam game yet again, and for me, that's still the reason that this round sort of slipped away from. Not that particularly, but specifically how late they were in terms of moving away from waiting for the bus and deciding I'm going to take a cab, and that is one, just a direct line to the site itself. Late to the party means you missed the best cake.
Psycho, the bit line up here, unfortunately, is going to be through quite a few walls, so no one from Psycho's POV there going to be able to be taken out anytime soon. Muzi making quick work to take bottom square, and soon top square through a transition as well. Invictus, of course, still has the potential positioning near here, so Muzi has to be very careful from this point forward. Is quite obviously a peak, and a shot could lead to a very quick death for him, and as well a massive loss of utility for the overall NiP roster. This adrenal surge is certainly going to be needed when the other members of NiP are going to get into position to start threatening the members of Invictus, and of course, will lead to threats for NiP's health as well. Pino on the repelled here, already going to start challenging things over towards Janitor. He's not alone in doing that. Psycho also supporting him from this avenue. Unfortunately, there's going to be a mute jammer in the way, but it should be pretty deal-withable for the members of NiP here. They're going to just have to find a winning angle to take that out very quickly, and then they'll have their path into the site here. But still needs to deal with those off-site positions. There we go. The mute jammer going to be dealt with. And no, actually not just yet. It's sitting in the corner instead. Regardless, though, Psycho is able to find the first kill here against Joe, taking out the castle off the site.
They've driven their way in, but how do you solve a problem like Speakeasy, who is buried down in Janitor's behind the mirror window? It is such a big player position right now. He has all the power to go for the swings, and NiP can get themselves some idea of safety, but as long as that isn't having some pressure put back upon it, it doesn't become a free swing, but it's a lot of information and it's a lot of danger. There is Muzi getting one more. Lunar Metal goes down, and they look like they want to pull their way away from the elevator, but the swing via the smoke just misses. The big backpack of Thermite there, back though for a bit of revenge, swung onto the window, and a great take, almost found a second, but Gig is going to see if he can lock it down on the front of the building. No is the answer as they go for the stick and the plant. It's one more attempt on a Finker, it's no more attempts on the game, and NiP lock out a win.
NiP shutting things down on the repeat of that second floor attack. The members once again of Invictus certainly trying to put up a fight, but NiP are able to work their way in this time. They know where the positions are, they know how to handle it or negate it, and